Hey guys, welcome back to Adventures in Aviators. Today we're jumping in the water on the northwest side of Mauritius at Pointe aux Biches. And if you're new to the channel, we rank all of our snorkel guides on location, water access, wildlife, water traffic, and facilities. And of course, we'll be ranking these on a scale of 1 to 5 manta rays.
5 manta rays?
5, of course, being the most illustrious of all. Now, I do want to start off today by saying that this is a more advanced snorkel. This is outside of the break, or on the outside of the reef. And so it is more for advanced snorkelers, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I would definitely only recommend doing this with fins and when there is not a lot of swell, and we'll talk more about that later, but this is not for your beginners. If you are a beginner coming to Mauritius, I would encourage you to check out our Trou snorkel guide, or also Lemourne. There's several other places on the island that are much more for you beginner snorkelers. With all that said, let's jump right into location. As I mentioned, this is on the northwest side of the island, a little under half an hour from Port Louis, or a little bit of a half an hour from Grand Bay if you're staying up in the north. And if you're coming from the south, it's going to be a little over an hour to get here. When you do arrive, I would encourage you to park at Pointe aux Biches, which is just south, and there's a nice beach area there. And then there's a little dirt road that goes up to the north with a nice little roundabout at the end, and you can park right there. And then you're going to make your way out to the point, which has all kinds of cool rock features. It's just a great place to chill and hang out. Even if not everyone's getting in the water, this is a great place. You want everybody to come. All kinds of awesome exploring, things that you can see from the rocks. And of course, then there's Pointe aux Biches right there as well. Now you'll notice that at Pointe aux Biches, there are signs everywhere that discourage you from getting in the water. They talk about how dangerous it is. That's because you'll see lots of big waves rolling in there, and that is legitimate. Don't get in the water there. It's very dangerous. The only reason that we get in at Pointe aux Biches is because there's an entry point just past the break. And getting caught up in that break can be really, really dangerous, and that is why this is for advanced snorkelers only. You can really, really hurt yourself if you get rolled by a wave, or if you get pushed around into a rock, and so you really want to feel comfortable in the water to be doing this snorkel. But because it is close to many of the resorts around the area, not too far from Grand Bay as well, I'm going to give this 5 out of 5 manta rays.
5 out of 5 manta rays.
So water access here is just a little bit tricky. It's certainly not a beach entry, and you want to look for this specific area in the rocks that's facing north, and it's protected by a little bit of a jetty of rocks there, and that is the area where even if there's just the slightest bit of swell, you're going to be protected, and it's a nice, gentle entry. You're going to have a big step down into the water. You do want to be careful for any kind of sea urchins that might be in the area. There are some around here. And then you're just going to snorkel out. You want to start floating as quickly as you can, even though you can touch. This is an area that is known for stonefish. Just Mauritius as a general rule, not the specific area. But so start floating, and you'll make your way out to in between those rocks right there that you can see. And then you just want to swim out to sea quickly, just so that you don't get caught up in any kind of random swell or waves that are coming in. If there is a little bit of swell, you will notice it, and it will be pushing you around. So again, this is why you want to be really comfortable in the water, and definitely bring fins on this adventure. But as you snorkel out, you will see that it gets deeper real quick, and you see all kinds of things. We'll talk about that here in a second. But as far as water entry goes, I'm going to give this 3 out of 5 manta rays. So now that you're in the water and you are swimming out towards the drop-off, and you will see that it very quickly goes from 1 and 2 meters deep to 3 and 4, and then there's a clear ledge that looks down, going much, much deeper, and it is a really beautiful area. The topography underwater is gorgeous. There are some trenches all along this area, and then when I snorkel this area, I always head north, because as a general rule, the prevailing currents are going south, and so you always want to go into the current first, and then let those currents kind of help you float back at the end when you're a little bit more tired. Now that said, again, you get bigger waves if you go south towards Pointe aux Biches, and so I don't really recommend that. I always go towards the north, or towards Pointe aux Biches. And again, though, you do just always want to take note of the conditions, if you've got any currents, any other swells, and stuff like that. But you have a bevy of wildlife here. You've got all kinds of different fish that hang in close and near the drop-off. The drop-off is definitely where I see the majority of fish, and you do get all kinds, and you can see here there's just a whole variety of things to see here. I have seen turtles, although not frequently. And I will say, even though I've never seen either of these from the water, or from in the water, that there are dolphins, and during the winter months, meaning like August, September, occasionally, at least from shore, you can see humpback whales. And so actually on this day, I did see humpback whales when we got back into shore, but they rarely would come in close enough that you'd be able to see them snorkeling. So I wouldn't ever anticipate seeing those in the water, but definitely keep an eye out for them when you're in the area. You can definitely see dolphins or whales, depending on the time of year, from this area. So when it comes to wildlife, while the coral is maybe not as thick as other places on the island, you do get a nice variety because you're on the outside of the reef. I'm gonna give this 3 out of 5 manta rays. Now with regards to water traffic, this is one of the reasons that I do like this area, because this is not a heavily trafficked area by other snorkelers. You'll see here that inside of the break of this area, it gets really, really shallow, and there's just not a lot to see snorkeling wise in here, and it is quite shallow. During the lowest tides, you can basically walk all the way out and see all those things. Now I wouldn't recommend that, because again, we do have stonefish in the area, and you want to have really big and solid shoes if you're going to be trudging around out there. But outside of the break, it's all yours. You don't see anyone out this way. They're all up further north at Trou and other places. And so that part about it is great, that you just have solitude and there's no one else around, and that is awesome. The one thing that you certainly have to watch out for, though, is boat traffic, because boat traffic will often kind of cut this corner going to or from Trou, and they're not necessarily looking for snorkelers in this area because it's not heavily trafficked. So I definitely recommend taking a float with you on this, or wearing bright colors so that other boaters and the boat drivers and captains can see you. And just to keep your head on a swivel. If you're hearing a boat, that means it's somewhat close, and just make sure that you watch out for one another, watch out for them, maybe splash around a little bit, just so that they make sure to see you. So there is boat traffic in this area, and as you can see here, when dolphins are around specifically, there's lots of boat traffic around, and that's oftentimes how we know that there are dolphins, is you'll see a cluster of boats around, unfortunately. But so definitely be careful of the boats around here, but when it comes to other snorkelers, you probably won't see any. But again, all the more reason to just take all the precautions and make sure that you've got a buddy. But for that reason, I'm going to give this 3 out of 5 manta rays. Finally, we have facilities, and I have good news, is that Pointe aux Biches does have some restrooms, which is really nice to have. There are not, however, showers in this area. So, but hey, we'll take legitimate facilities anytime. So for that reason, I'm going to give this 4 out of 5 manta rays. So all told, I really enjoy Pointe aux Biches as a snorkel spot. It is a unique place to get in the water. It's a nice place to get in past the break and past the reef, so you can be on the outside of the reef and see other things like that. It's a great little place to explore for your family, or if you have kids. When it comes to actually snorkeling, I definitely would recommend that you be advanced in your snorkeling, or at least very comfortable, and that you have fins, because you can get pushed around a little bit. And just straight avoid this area. If there's big swell, just don't even mess with it. I tried to do that with my neighbor one time, and we got in, and we were in for about 30 seconds. We were like, poor choice, and we got back out, because the waves can be fierce in this area when the swell is up. So please be careful out there. You don't want to take the risk. If you've got big swell, go up to Trou, and you'll have a great time inside the reef, and it'll be just gorgeous. So no worries there. But be safe, have a great time in this area. And hey, if you're coming to this area and you want to do this, hey, leave a comment down below, and I'll go out with you. I live right in this area and love taking people out. And so if you are in the area, give us a shout, and we'll go do this together, and we'll have a blast. Thanks so much, everyone. Give this video a like if you like this kind of content, and we'll see you next time.